Welcome to Between the Reads, where we shine a spotlight on some of the most talented Black authors in the industry to discuss their works of fiction and the inspirations behind them. Each episode, we'll dive into the rich and diverse world of literature, exploring everything from historical fiction to romance and speculative fiction to YA and beyond. Tune in as we celebrate the voices of Black authors and the power of storytelling. Are you ready, Boos and Bros? Then sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Tatiana Obey writes badass characters slaying dragons. She is the author of A Forging of Age duology, and she enjoys combining action with character-driven stories that feature diverse heroes and heroines. Her debut novel, Bones to the Wind, is a 2022 BBA Award winner and a 2022 Indie Ink Award finalist. She once taught English in South Korea, studied abroad in Japan, and worked as a marketing specialist for a woman-owned law firm. The one thing she loves as much as writing is traveling the world. Tatiana, welcome to Between the Reads.
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
Good. I'm getting ready to take these glasses off. And for y'all that are listening and not watching, you go over to YouTube. I have dressed as Sistah Samurai for her. I got as close to it as I could. Sistah Samurai actually has black afro with streaks of white in it. I didn't have that. I have my afro, but I even tried to get the little earrings down like in the picture. So I'm going to take my glasses off.
She's so cute, y'all.
So there's my glasses up there. There we go. Got to make sure everything is, looking good. Got to be perfect. So tell us what Sistah Samurai is all about.
All right, so Sistah Samurai is about, it has this kind of feudal Japan-inspired setting, really based off of the anime Afro Samurai. So if you've seen that anime, you kind of know what you're getting into a little bit.
Okay.
And this world is kind of populated by these soul-sucking demons. And it's about this Sistah Samurai. She's the last one left of her order. And, it's just a very trying day for her.
All Sistah wants to do is just get home. She wanted to enjoy a bowl of ramen and just go to hell home. And she couldn't do it. She couldn't do it.
The world had other plans.
I was like, when she was like, nope. When everybody was looking at her, when that demon came, she's like, no, I'm going to enjoy my ramen. I'm going to chill out. And my sis couldn't even eat the ramen. And then she had to, when they brought her another bowl of ramen, after that demon was slayed, she had to rush through that bowl. I'm like, damn, can a sister just get a break? Can she just enjoy her lunch, please? For real. I'm just saying. So on the cover, it states that this is a Champloo novella. So what is this Champloo world? Tell us more about this.
Okay, so Champloo comes from the anime Samurai Champloo, and it was also a 90s anime by Shinichiro Watanabe. And what it is it kind of explores marginalized communities and marginalized stories in Japan through a hip hop lens. So it's very hip hop inspired. And very similarly to it is kind of like a fusion world. So it has like DJs and MCs and just like random things that you would not expect in Japan, feudal Japan.
Right.
And so he took Champloo that word from an Okinawan term, which means to like mix up, to stir up. So that's where that word kind of like fusion is inspired. And, this is a sort of genre that hasn't really been touched in like 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I haven't really seen like anything else that's like this hip hop and anime mixed with, like Black culture. So I was like, you know what, it's time to bring this back. It's really cool, and it allows me to do some really cool things that I don't see really in modern fantasy now.
Right.
And just to bring back that fusion genre that I really enjoyed.
Okay, so it's not a world you created, but you're just kind of adding to that world.
Well, this world I did create on my own because I also wanted it to be my own thing.
Right.
So,
But
but it's
the
yeah,
shampoo genre overall is something that you're just adding.
exactly. Yeah,
Okay, so you put your
yeah,
spin on it. Okay.
yeah, exactly.
All right. And y'all, this book is so fun. Like from beginning to end, it's a novella. I read it in one sitting. It is so fun. It is so fun. Like think about a badass black woman who's just like, look, I got time today. All right? And that is what this novella is. She's kicking ass, she's taking names, and all while she's just trying to get home, and she's just so she's just so nonchalant about it. She's just like, okay, this is what we got to do. This is what we got to do. It's just such a fun read. There's action and there's fighting and there's demon slaying and it's just I have never read anything like it because I have never read anime. So when I think of anime, I'm not thinking there's anything black culture related in it. So when I'm open this up and I'm reading, I'm like, oh, okay, we could do this. We could do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So y'all got this is you. It's well worth the read. Well worth the read. So what was the inspiration for this novella?
So there were a couple of inspirations that kind of just happened at the same time. But what really started it was there was an anthology I was looking to submit to,
Mm-hmm.
but um and it's a short story, and this image of just a black woman with a katana, like with a sword, popped in my head. I was like, ooh, this is kind of interesting. And it was such a good idea, and it didn't really fit the theme of the anthology. I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep this to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I was working on my duology, that year of working on my duology, this story's been kind of sitting in the back of my head, kind of bringing a lot of elements that I've always wanted to write about. For example, it's an homage to Afro Samurai. I've always wanted to, like bring this genre back
Mm-hmm.
because, I there are some certain gripes I had about Afro Samurai. Um, it's it's a manga that was originally written by like a Japanese mangaka, right? A
Mm-hmm.
Japanese writer.
Mm-hmm.
And when it was finally produced into an anime, you had Samuel L. Jackson came onto it. He voiced both characters. RZA did the soundtrack. Like that's really where you hear a lot of his soundtrack happening in anime.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like this is the awesomest thing I'd ever seen. But where are the black women in this? Like
Mm.
even once there was a after the miniseries was over, there was a movie, and the movie had like one female character with one line, one black female character in it with one line, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that's it? Like
Wow.
that's it? And when
Mm-hmm.
you go into like the history of the production and like why these choices were made, apparently like in the background of the production they were all down for making like this black female character with one line having
Mm-hmm.
a bigger role, but it
Mm-hmm.
was the American side of the production company that said no.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like looking at that, and it's like this was the one anime that we had, and like us females were not even given consideration and not even like represented. And it's just
Mm.
like, you know, I've been like it's been time. I'm like I've been wanting to just I wanted a story for us.
Right.
Like for black women in anime. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted a story for us. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, I'm gonna have to write it. And so like all these kind of like inspirations came together
Mm-hmm.
for this novella, and I was like, yes, this is it. And so when I finally sat down to write it, I was just it just because one day like the whole plot came to me like a mini TV episode.
Oh
And so
wow.
it was like, okay, that was it. And I
Mm-hmm.
just wrote it, and it was crazy enough one of the easiest things I've ever written because it's just
Wow.
like all of the stuff I just had in me. It's like taking a chunk of my soul and just putting it on the page and going, here, finally, let's go.
We got it.
Yes.
Well, you opened up a whole world for me because first of all, I when I think samurais, I don't think about African anything. So
Yeah.
Afro samurais, you got me wanting to go down a rabbit hole, and then Chelsea has loves anime, and when she starts talking anime, I'm like, Chelsea, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but okay.
Well, the I feel as if like black men in anime is a little bit more acceptable now, especially today in modern times when you
Mm,
have like the story of Yasuke, where there is
okay.
like a historical confirmation that there was a black samurai that lived in
Mm,
Japan. And
okay.
Netflix did like a whole anime about his
Really?
yeah, his life.
Huh.
So that does exist, but
Hmm.
I mean, I have some issues. I have some issues with it. Mostly it was
Uh-oh.
really boring, but
You said this ain't it, huh?
yeah, but even to this day, it feels like there's a lot of gatekeeping around being a black woman in the anime fandom space.
Mm,
You know, it still feels as if like, why are you here? Like you're like, really?
wow.
You're an anime fan, really? And it's just like, look,
Hmm.
we're here too, and we've been here.
Right, right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So now you've got Sister Samurai, Brother Monks, and to be clear, y'all, they are Sistah, T-A-H, and Brother, T-H-A, monks. You've got talismans. You've got, is it Tamashi? Is that how you say it?
Yes,
Tamashi ink?
yes, Tamashi.
Okay, Tamashi ink. You've got Afro picks that grow to like three, four times their size and kill demons. And then you've got the demons themselves. Tell us your world building process for this book.
Okay. So, yeah, when I thought of this story, my head immediately went to Afro Samurai because
Okay.
I think, when you watch that anime right now, it does come kind of across as kind of corny a little bit. Like, the jokes are old. It was
Hmm.
really cool back in the 90s, but now
Right.
you're like, the jokes are old, right?
Right, right.
But I still think a lot of people don't give it credit to what it did
Okay.
because what Afro Samurai did and what the author did with this work is, along with having a black samurai in it, he also included a lot of different anachronisms that did not make sense within this world. So he had like
Hmm.
RPGs and like high tech binoculars and DJs in it.
Hmm.
And it's really, goes back to that the way that readers react to it, right? Like, oh, this is Japan. How can there be a black guy in Japan? And the writer
Mm.
can be like, well, there's all this other crazy stuff too, you know?
Right, right. Hmm.
Um, so I definitely wanted like to pay homage to that world building
Hmm.
because, you know, in secondary world fantasy, like in in the black fantasy space that we have right now is
Hmm.
very African inspired.
Hmm.
And, me, Black African American, you know, to do something African inspired and to do something really well does require like a lot of research. And
Hmm.
I've read, and it's great to have like those roots, like it's
Right.
great to like read back up on that and to have that.
Hmm.
But I was also craving like something black,
Right, right.
like something that was more closely related to what I'd known. And
Hmm.
so when I thought about, like out of all of the media that I've ever consumed in my entire life, like black culture featured in a secondary world fantasy, the
Hmm.
only thing that comes to mind is Afro Samurai. And
Hmm.
so like I don't know if they realized like how novel and rare that was.
Hmm.
It was just kind of waiting for us to pick up space. And I have
Hmm.
theories to why it's taking kind of 20 years to kind of get to this point.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, like I'm really kind of stepping on the shoulders of what Afro Samurai, like the foundation it already built.
Okay. Okay. So, can we talk about Sister Samurai's two swords?
Okay. Yes.
Tell our readers what you named them. We curse
All
here, so just go ahead.
Okay, great. So the katana is fuck around, and the wakizashi is find out. So you got to be ready, cause she slays.
What made you just say, okay? I mean, it makes perfect sense, but what made you just say, okay, this is what I'm going to name them?
My terrible sense of humor, I think.
When I tell you that I had to put the book down for like a solid 5 minutes because I was just laughing. I was like, no, she didn't. No, she didn't. I even wrote Chelsea on Discord. I was like, Chelsea, no, she did not name these swords. Fuck around and find out.
I mean, if I was a samurai, that's what my swords would be named.
Perfect names. Perfect names. And then this other thing that had me cracking up, the Ashy Demon. Please share with our readers what you did with the Ashy Demon and how Sister Samurai handled the Ashy Demon.
So the demons are kind of my like own construction. Because again,
Uh-huh.
like I also wanted to make the world a little bit of my own.
Uh-huh.
And you know, she's a samurai, you got to give her something to fight. And some of the demons are very serious, but
Right.
I also wanted more like funnier and non-serious demons.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, or maybe serious demons. I don't know about you, but like, the one there's some demons that terrorize me on a daily basis, and and there's only one way you can take care of them. So you got to be ready with, you got to have it. Make sure you carrying the right tools in your purse. Make sure you always have it on hand so you can take care of them demons.
And tell us what she used on this particular demon. She just pulled it off her waist.
Yeah, I mean, look, a black woman, you always got to carry some lotion. You got to carry some lotion around. There's only one way to exercise the ashy demons. Your mama ain't gonna let you leave the house without
With no
taking care
ash.
of those demons.
We take care of the demons. Y'all, when I tell you the Sister Samurai, she did this thing and she had this demon caged. And so the demon couldn't come out at her, but she could reach in and she took the lotion from her hip and she just reached through and just started rubbing it on this demon's face and it calmed the demon. When I tell y'all I was done, I was like, wait a minute. Because when I first read through that, I was like, okay. And then I went on to read and I was like, wait a minute. Did she say ashy demon and she's got cocoa butter? Like it didn't hit me right off the bat. It's like I went back and reread the passage and was like, oh my God. She has a whole ashy demon up in here, y'all. A whole ashy demon. That I was done. I
Yeah.
was done.
Well, I wanted to talk to the demons that affect us, right? Like that we fight on a daily basis.
On a daily basis, we do. We do. We do. Now, through most of the book, the main Sister Samurai, the main character, Sister Samurai, we don't see her name until almost the end of the book. And then there's this sentence in the book: names have power when you acknowledge them. And we ain't going to say who called her name in the end of the book because we're going to leave that as a surprise. But let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah. So, this is also a little bit of my pettiness with going back to Afro Samurai.
Mm-hmm.
So in Afro Samurai, the main character name is Afro. You never know what his name is. You never find out what his name is. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, well my book is for black women. There's
Mm-hmm.
no way I can write this book and you not know her name.
Right.
like that's
Right.
that is not going to work. That is not going to happen. So I knew that eventually through the story that her name would be set.
Mm-hmm.
Um because names do have power. And it's
Mm-hmm.
going back to that space where, like you only gave us one line in this in this show,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so guess what? None of the other characters are named. Only the women are named in this book. And and it's definitely to reinforce that this book is for us.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Mm-hmm.
already have readers like, oh, I want to, I was curious about the brother mucks. I want to know about the brother mucks. I'm like, well, this book ain't theirs. It does not belong to theirs. And also kind of just, how important names is
Mm-hmm.
in our culture. and how important it is in for Black women. You know, saying our name correctly is a form of respect. Because, you know,
Absolutely.
like it's very often a lot of people, you know, don't want to say it correctly. And they, you know, historically, they didn't say our names at all.
Right.
So, you know, like names are very important. And there's no way I could not say her name by the end of the book.
And you know, this wasn't one of my questions, but I just wanted to go back through the beginning. You said at the very beginning, to my fam, welcome home. To everyone else, you are a guest in this house. Mind your manners. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, you know, that comes from, it's very interesting the way that different audiences come into a book, right? Like, I knew that this book was targeted toward Black women. This book is for them. This book is for the Black girl nerds. You know, it's for my friends, it's for my family, it's for them to feel seen and
Right.
represented in a fantasy space. But, you know, I do want to acknowledge that um, other audiences are going to come into this book. Other people are going to come into this book because, you know, let's be honest. They see Black folks having fun and, you know, doing their own thing. People be like, oh, what's he doing? You know, like I want to be on. I want to see what's going on. I want to have
Right.
fun too.
Right.
So, but the way that we approach BIPOC books, especially from I think a reader and from a critiquer point of view, should should come with some kind of respect and understanding that there are things in this book you're not going to understand. There are
Right.
things in this book that aren't references. There are things in this book that are different. And because they are different, that does not mean that they are bad. It means that, you know, it's just not for you.
Right. Right.
And I think sometimes we don't talk about how to critique those books because
Yeah.
one of my biggest, I think, issues with traditional publishing is, you know, I am so very happy that we have this wide range of Black fantasy now. But sometimes you can pick up a book and tell when it's edited towards a white gaze and
Yes.
tell when it's like edited towards white mainstream culture and it's not for you, you know, which, you know, kind of defeats the point of why I want to read this book.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so because trad kind of coddles, you know, like the mainstream, I think, you know, it becomes a little bit more vicious when there are books that aren't written for them. You know,
Yes.
and you know they come in and
Absolutely.
they expect everything to be explained, they expect everything to, you know, make sense, and when it doesn't, it's like, well, yeah, because it's not for you. And just knowing like how to respect that. I
Right.
think and in another podcast I had mentioned that um you know, growing up, I was very blessed to have a very diverse friend group. And one of my best friends, she's Salvadorian. But whenever I'd go over to her house, or she was inviting me to her house, I would put in the work. I would make sure I brush up on my Spanish. I would make sure I know how to greet her mother. I would make sure I know what the customs are and make sure I respect their house because they don't have to invite me there. You know, I
Right.
am a guest. That's their safe space. You know, so make sure I put in the work to be respectful in this space. And in turn, you know, like I am enriched in turn. You know,
Right.
I learn new things. I learn new, you know, like I am fed with like new food that I've never had before. Like I learn different ways of doing things. Like you come away a better person. But just being mindful that going in, you know, there's also work that you have to do. Um, and so sometimes like you have like these books that come out by BIPOC authors.
Right.
And when you look at their ratings and you look at the ratings of other white fantasy authors and you compare them, the BIPOC authors are always rated more lower and more harshly.
Yes.
And it's like,
Why? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like we're held to this standard that's, almost impossible. And even though our books are better than theirs, and that's the one thing that is just such my pet peeve, is they say, "Oh, I just couldn't relate to it." I'm like, okay, but you can relate to Harry Potter, you can relate to Lord of the Rings, you can relate to all of this craziness going on, but you can't relate to this simply because it's a black person writing it, or it's, an indigenous or another person of color writing it. Now you can't relate to it. And that to me just says that's just, a dog whistle term for I don't want to accept this because you black people are supposed to stay in your lane. Like they expect us to write romance and urban fiction and that's it. And it's like,
Exactly.
yes, we are in those genres, but we are in all these other genres too. So when you say I just couldn't connect to it, but you can connect to, Harry Potter and all this other stuff, if you can't connect, if you can connect to that, you can connect to our stuff. You just don't want to because that's your way of saying that you don't think we belong here.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So,
Hmm.
that's what I said in my book. You're in my house now.
Right.
Mind your manners.
Mm-hmm. Like you don't understand it, that's cool. Just keep reading, keep it moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we see Sister Samurai deal with PTSD and triggers. And she's also just tired of fighting. Why was it important to acknowledge this in your story?
So for two reasons. And again, I'm a big reader,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the Black fantasy space. Like I
Mm-hmm.
really, really enjoy fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of really great books out right now, but I feel as if the overwhelming emotion is anger.
Mm-hmm.
And anger is really important. Like it is really
Right.
important to portray.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we are also capable of other emotions.
Yes. Yes.
And I also wanted to just speak to exhaustion. I hadn't seen a book that really speaks to tiredness yet.
Mm-hmm.
And and as I was writing this, I remember having a conversation with one of my friends, and we were kind of just talking about kind of the Black community and
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that we saw going on, because I think like this was the time that they has just, like the whole affirmative action case was happening. And we were
Mm-hmm.
talking about like, yeah, we don't really see a lot of activism on the part of like Black folks happening as much as George Floyd. And it was
Mm-hmm.
just kind of a discussion and breaking down like why. And, it's like there's inflation, student
Yeah.
loans are due.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to pay rent. We're
Mm-hmm.
tired. We are
Mm-hmm.
tired. And,
And more
like,
tired. And
and
we've
we're
been fighting the
tired.
same damn fight for
Exactly.
centuries in different forms.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so I just really wanted to write a book that speaks to that.
Mm-hmm.
That speaks to, yeah, I see you. We're tired.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it's okay to rest before continuing the fight.
Right. Because that what really hit me was at the end when she was speaking to a certain person, and that person said, "Have you ever just taken a day off?" And she's like, "I don't even know what that looks like." And then this person says, "Well, you going to take the day off, and I'm going to go handle business for you." And she just starts crying as if like somebody offered her millions of dollars. She was just like she couldn't fathom
Yeah.
a day off. And that, that really hit me because do we know what it's like to just take a day off and just really take the day off, not to do anything else, you know?
I yeah, I mean like I don't know. I know I try, and it's just
Mhm.
like constant
Mhm. Mhm.
going. And
Right.
like even when, for example, like my mom, I want her to get some rest, and I see how tired she is. And
Mhm.
sometimes what's most useful is just get all the kids out the house so she can have some peace and quiet.
Mhm. Yes. Yes. Cuz I could think back to my kids are all in their 20s now. But raising them, no. There was no day off for me.
Yeah.
There was no the only time I can say I really had off was in July. My oldest son would go to his mother for the month of July. And my parents always wanted to take my other two kids for the month of July. So for July, my husband and I would like have no kids in the house. And it was just like, I can actually eat an entire meal and not have to like get up and stop or have somebody picking food off my plate. And I can
Yes.
just like clean the house and it stays clean. Oh my God.
Yes.
But that was like rare. And I had, my friends were like, I hate you every July. Cause I was like, woo. Cause that was 12 months a year and all I get is that 1 month. And even then I'm still like, cause I'm trying to get stuff done around the house that I can't get done when they're home. So it's not completely resting. But at least it's not like I don't have the kids underfoot and trying to entertain them and making sure that I'm doing more with them than just sticking them in front of the TV. So it's, yeah, but it's that exhaustion is real. I got tired just thinking back to raising my kids. Like, yeah, I'm glad you spoke to that exhaustion because we are tired, y'all. We are
Yeah.
tired. We really are.
Yeah. And a lot of this, and a lot of this book is inspired by like the women that are
Mhm.
around me, like my mom, my aunt, my grandmother.
Mhm.
Um, you know, my mom has always done a lot to make sure that we're taken care of. And I don't think
Mhm.
I really realized how much until I was older, like
Mhm.
how much effort it is to just like go to the grocery store and
Right.
deal with other people. On top
Mhm.
of that, dealing with like patriarchal coworkers and like racism and just like trying to get home every day. Like it's a lot. And so
Mhm.
like when my mom has a day off, she's just like, leave me alone. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
I got you.
Like, I just need some peace. I just need some peace. And you even hit on that too in an interesting way that I'm not going to say because I don't want to reveal anything that happens in the end. But you hit on that too. So, but I want to talk about fighting a little bit more. And I'm going to read half of this passage
Oh, okay.
on page 27, which was really powerful. And I want to read it to you, but I want you to tell me what you felt when you were writing this.
Oh, okay.
So you said, I just didn't understand why I had to be the one dishing out the lesson. I didn't have the time to go around educating folks. I didn't have the time to correct every ignorant word that fell from the mouths of the people who didn't care to change. Nor should I always have to prove why my existence deserves their respect. What were you feeling when you wrote that?
Maybe a little anger.
Mm-hmm.
um, and like we get on social media, but it's also just daily life
Mm-hmm.
too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember, used to work in corporate America
Mm-hmm.
and just and it's like chasing every ignorant remark and having it just rub up against you. And, like, are you going to be that black girl at work that always has problems or,
Mm-hmm.
always causing problems?
Mm-hmm.
And, I ended up being the one because I didn't have no kids. So I was like, okay, I'm going to talk about this. But,
Right.
like, you know, when you're chasing every fight, it gets tiring.
Right. Right.
And and the reality of it, you shouldn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Like you shouldn't have to force them to see you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you shouldn't have to force them to listen or to give you just basic decency and basic respect.
Mm-hmm.
And like these small microaggressions and these small things happen to us daily.
Right.
And it's like, is this the fight that I want to like to talk about, to speak up about,
Mm-hmm.
or am I going to save my energy and just go about my day?
Right. Right.
And just let these people talk crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And we make those choices every day.
Right. Yeah. And it's tiring and we shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, she's just like, you know what? She's like, she gets to the point where she's like, yeah, I got time today. But, she's like, but why do I have to do this all the damn time? Like, and we really do have to choose when these things happen. Like, okay, is this something important? Is this going to really make a difference? Or is this fool going to keep fooling and, being themselves? And what we're saying is just going to, like hitting our head against a brick wall, or is this something that we really know we need to take the time to dispel this,
Yeah.
regardless of whether it changes them or not? Sometimes it's a boundary that you just have to let them know, look, you can be as ignorant as you want to be, but what we're not doing is crossing this line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It speaks to, like when we have to make those choices and when we
Mm-hmm.
do those boundaries and
Mm-hmm.
where, like like where those
Right.
boundaries are.
Mm-hmm. Yes. As Charlie Murphy says, habitual line steppers. You got to show them where the line is all the time.
Yes.
All the time. So now I want to talk about the shadow demon and what it represented and the way that you had Sister Samurai talk to it, because it was different. Like the focus shifted when she was talking to that demon. And even the way that the demon spoke to her, like their interaction was different from the way the rest of the language in the book was set up. So let's talk about that shadow demon.
So that's another aspect that was really inspired by Afro Samurai. So
Okay.
in the anime, there is a character that follows him around, kind of
Mhm.
a foil character, very boisterous, also voiced by Samuel L. Jackson in the
Mhm.
anime.
Okay.
And at the end of the anime, it's revealed that this character might have been in the main character's head all along. So he might
Mm.
have really been a figment of his imagination or a,
Mhm.
kind of part
His
of the main character's
conscience.
trauma conscious,
Mhm. Mhm.
exactly.
Mhm.
And so I was really inspired by that idea. And I
Mhm.
really wanted to take that idea and again apply it to, okay, this is a story, this is, our story for
Mhm.
Black women. How can I apply this idea and really make it resonate and really make it feel right?
Mhm.
And so in the book, I came up with the idea of the shadow demon.
Mhm.
And, to do a character like this in a first person book is kind of hard because you're always in
Right.
the
Mhm.
character's head. And so
Mhm.
that's definitely where you feel like that kind of like that switch. You're like,
Mhm.
wait a minute. Because she breaks the fourth wall in the first chapter, and it's
Mhm.
finally the reader finally realizing she was never really speaking to me.
Right. Mhm. Mhm.
And and it just speaks to kind of all of the self-doubt and all of the weight and all of the guilt and all of the things that kind of just go through
Mhm.
our head as we just exist
Mhm.
and go about our lives.
Right. Yeah, and there were some powerful moments in there, like the the dialogue where the shadow demon was speaking, and I call it the too much not enough scene.
I'm gonna take that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I named it. I called it the too much not enough scene. So, let's talk about that.
Okay.
Because by the time that dialogue was done, I was like, "Oh my god, I was just tired reading it, like, can you just shut up?" Please. Because I mean, I really felt that. So let's talk about that too much, not enough dialogue and why you chose to do that. That was very, very powerful.
So, like, it's just speaking to all of these contradictions and pressures and expectations that Black women face, like
Mm-hmm.
we're supposed to be the strong Black woman, but we're not supposed to, like have emotions. We're not supposed
Mm-hmm.
to feel frustrated. We're not supposed to be angry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, that I feel like a lot of Black people, probably everyone, especially in nerd spaces, always
Mm-hmm.
felt, like, am I Black enough
Mm-hmm.
for liking anime? Like, does this
Right.
not make me Black
Right.
Black
Right.
enough? You
Mm-hmm.
know? And even like growing up, I'm obviously very light skinned. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, like who are you to tell me like who you think I am?
Right.
You don't know my business. You don't know my
Mm-hmm.
people. You don't know
Mm-hmm.
where I come from.
Right.
So
Exactly.
so stay out of my business and
Mm-hmm.
just, let me be
Right.
and let me be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That, and You just hit on it like, you talk too well, you're too smart, you're too caring, you're too curious, you're not enough of this, you're not enough of that. And it's just like, God, it's not enough to just be dealing with the racism and everything that we're getting from white folks on a daily basis. And we getting it from our own folks too, like,
And we get it from ourselves.
from ourselves, wondering if I do this, am I, like you said, am I black enough? Can I like anime? Can I like, Star Trek? Can I like Star Wars? Can I do all these different things that we see white people doing all the time and don't question, but a black person does it, and all of a sudden it's like it's a problem.
Yeah.
It's internalized white supremacy. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how did you select the playlist for this novella? And why did you choose to name each chapter after the songs in the playlist?
Okay. So this is also another inspiration from Afro Samurai.
Okay.
So, as I said, RZA of the Wu-Tang Clan, he was very involved in the soundtrack of Afro Samurai. So the
Okay.
music is very important.
Mhm.
Also, Samurai Champloo,
Mhm.
that anime had Nujabes and really kind of um, catapulted like lo-fi hip hop in
Mhm.
Japanese,
Mhm.
or sorry, in Japan.
Mhm.
And so music has always been really important to these properties. And I
Okay.
definitely knew I wanted to do like a playlist to accompany this this story.
Okay.
But I was very intentional about the playlist too, because I was like, okay, so like no black men. Like we've had enough enough rappers. We're good. Let's bring the
Right.
ladies into this one. This
Right.
is
Right. Right.
ours. So like I chose all black female artists
Mhm.
for this book. It's
Mhm.
a I tried to do like a mix of different styles, a mix of
Mhm.
different kind of eras,
Mhm.
and it's unfortunately there's only like 12, 13. Like I have a lot more in the bank that I wish I could have included.
Right.
Um, but just to show like how important the music is and how important it is to incorporate, like, because music is also very big thing in our
Mhm.
culture. Like it's
Mhm.
also, it's like the
Absolutely.
soundtrack to our lives.
Yes. Yes. It is. Mhm.
And so I couldn't have her like walking the streets and not having like, like Beyonce playing in the background.
Right. Right, right, right. Of course, for me, I mean, you had one track for Queen Latifah. I'd be having Queen Latifah playing the whole time because that's my girl. She's from Jersey, like me. I grew up with her. Like she was my Beyonce.
Yeah, her
Like
chapter
her.
is great.
Oh yeah, man. Her and Janet Jackson, like those were my women. Yeah, from my era.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I want to talk about the commercial break in the book.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it. What made you decide to put that in?
Um, so it's actually really funny because my beta readers, because I had a bunch of beta readers come into the book, and a lot
Mhm.
of my beta readers, they came from a very Western fantasy space, so they're
Mhm.
used to very big long epics. But
Mhm.
this is an action fantasy, and it's more of a subgenre
Mhm.
that you usually see in indie publishing. You don't really see it in trad publishing very much, but because of it, action fantasy is very fast paced. It
Mhm.
very follows kind of like the pacing of action movies.
Mhm.
So but because of that, the readers are like, man, this is very breathless. And I was thinking, I was like, you know what these other like properties do that anime does so well? A commercial break. Let's give people a breather. Let's give them a break to catch their breath and go get some water, and then we
Right.
can get
Right.
back to the fighting and
Right.
the hacking and slashing.
I just love that because I'm reading and there's all this action. It's like we will be right back after these messages, and then she's got these cute messages in there. She's got her book in there. Then she's got a thing for some Jordans. That's like you could get for like $1 billion worth of the ink of the Tamashi ink. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of ink. That's
Yeah,
a lot of ink. But
yeah.
it was really interesting. I love the way you did that.
Oh, thank you.
And then at the end, we have the memoriam. Share with us, there are a lot of names there. people who are not with us anymore. How did you pick those specific names?
So those specific names, I use it's not in the paperback, but it's linked. The website's linked in the the ebook.
Okay.
Um, Hold on, because I want to make sure I get it right.
Okay.
I don't know if you can like cut this part
No,
out.
that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the in memoriam. It says say her name. If people could see that.
Yes. Okay. So the names I got the names from the African American Policy Forum, and they have a website to where they really help initiative um, and raise awareness for women that have been killed due to police violence.
Hmm.
Um, and so all of these names come from that
Okay.
website.
Okay.
And there are a lot of names that I'm sure you will recognize.
Yes, there were quite a few I recognized,
Yeah.
but some that I
Um,
didn't.
Yes, some
Mhm.
that I didn't, and I wanted to make sure I included everyone. And the
Mhm.
list that the Policy Forum has is very expansive.
Mhm.
And as they collect names, I do plan on updating this book every year with the updated
Wonderful.
list of names.
Wow.
Um, but, like just that acknowledgement of the sisters
Mhm.
that are no longer with us.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, tell us about being a black indie fantasy author and how you're making space for black women in the genre.
Well, I certainly hope so. Um, you know, I chose indie very specifically.
Mhm.
I did think about going trad, but I came to the realization that my stories did not fit trad publishing.
Mhm.
Like I wanted to tell the stories that trad publishing could not publish.
Right.
Um, like this anime book,
Mhm.
um, this isn't a book that, like, unless it does very well right now,
Mhm. Mhm.
it's not a book that trad publishing would initially pick up.
Mhm.
Like the target audience is black girl nerds. And
Mhm.
can you imagine? They're like, how big is that?
We
Like, do
don't
they
even
exist?
know where to put this. We don't know how to market
Exactly.
this. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, they
Mhm.
don't know how to market their regular black fantasy book.
Right.
So, like I am very intentional about trying to publish those things that
Mhm.
Trad Pub probably wouldn't publish. So
Right.
even going back to my debut novel, Bones to the Wind,
Mhm.
um, while Sister Samurai, it feels like, like Trad Pub would be like, that's too black.
Mhm. Mhm.
Bones to
Mhm.
the Wind is that book to where Trad Pub looks at it's like, is that black enough? you
Right.
know? And while like the characters are very diverse,
Mhm.
I wanted to take a more imagination approach, as in
Mhm.
like I this is my creativity. This came out of the creativity of a black woman, and
Mhm.
I created all of this from inspiration, from influences from scratch, and it
Mhm.
has my experiences in it, even
Mhm.
though you can't look at it and say like, "Oh, this isn't African inspired."
Mhm.
We don't know how to market this.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So, like I really do hope that I am creating a space for people to come and say, I have this really weird book that, traditional publishing isn't going to publish,
Mhm.
but, you know, I hope they can see that, oh, well, at least this is doing well. Mine will do
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
Like again, like my first duology, like you give it to readers and readers are like, this is very unique and I don't really know what to compare it
Right. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
to.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And for trad pub, that's hard because they're very big on comp titles. They're like, it's
Right.
this and this meets this and this. But
Right.
when you can't do that, like
Mhm.
they're just like,
And I
I
always
don't.
felt like that was a disservice anyway, because if somebody doesn't like the books that you're comping the book to, then they're going to be like, well, I didn't like those books, so I'm not going to pick it up. So then they're shutting the door to potential readers before they've even had a chance to pick the book up and determine whether they like it or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I'm just like all of my books because, like again, light skinned. but I am Creole on my dad's side,
Mm-hmm.
and I have family members who are as dark as you, even
Mm-hmm.
darker than you, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to show this spectrum of our melanin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The spectrum of my siblings and my
Mm-hmm.
cousins and my
Mm-hmm.
family. I want
Right.
to write all of it,
Right.
regardless if you think that's black enough.
Right. Exactly. 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 So what's next for you in the writing world? What are you working on?
Hmm.
Yeah.
What a funny question. So, but right now, I honestly, like, I have ideas of what I
Okay.
want to do.
Okay.
Um, I'm going to take a bit of a break, but then get started back in December and January on writing another book.
Okay.
But like, I'm kind of nervous about officially announcing something because I'm
Okay.
easily a person who'll write the first draft of a book, and if I'm not liking it, I
Mm-hmm.
will scrap it. Like, I'm like,
Right.
no, that's not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then also, like, the travails of indie publishing. Will I have enough money? I don't know. We hope so.
Right.
So there are a lot of factors. I have ideas and I have plans, but
Okay.
I honestly can't make you any promises.
Right.
No promises here.
And she's taking that break that we say we needed in this book. We talked about rest. So she's taking a rest. That's all right because she has books that you all can read in the meantime. So, on that note, where can readers find your books?
My books can be found usually everywhere where books are sold.
Mhm.
I'm a wide author, so just plop it in Google, something will show up.
Okay.
You can also purchase signed copies on my website.
Okay.
Um, and yeah,
Okay. So, what's your website?
yes, my website. You're good at this. My website is TatianaObey.com.
Okay.
Yes.
And where can we find you on social media?
So my social media handle, usually across all the interwebs, is a play on my last name, which is
Okay.
at obeytheauthor.com. Yeah, obey the
That
author.
is
That is what I know.
cute. Yeah, because it's OB, but it's spelled obey. So obey the author.
Yes.
Yeah. I caught it. I caught it. I caught it. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and talents with us and being here with me today. I truly enjoyed this book. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. I had a good time. We had a good
Good.
time.
I had a great time. I had a great time. And y'all know how I do. At the end of every show, I like to leave you with a quote. And today is coming from Tatiana Obey and her book, Sistah Samurai. And it goes something like this. But then there are those days when your patience wears thin and the cuts are too many to ignore. When you're too tired, but not tired enough. When you've had enough of the bullshit and the tomfoolery. And you've reached that magical moment when you've manifested the ability to make time. And this episode is dedicated to all the Sistah Samurais, those still here with us, and those that are now ancestors of samurais. Until next time, y'all, grab a book and read, and keep it pushing. Thank you for lending me your ear today. If you've enjoyed this independent podcast, you can help me continue to shine the light on Black authors and their stories by becoming a patron at patreon.com/betweenthereads or by giving a one-time gift at www.ko-fi.com/betweenthereadspodcast. That's ko-fi.com/betweenthereadspodcast. Tune in next time for another great episode.